Hi everyone, this is a short screencast for Independent Colleges Dublin for CIMA E1 for November 2014. And in this particular screencast, I'm going to take a quick look at CSR, or corporate social responsibility, and really what that means at various levels. And I guess the first thing to do is just to note that this particular screencast in the main will cover what Carol and Buchholz tell us about CSR. But outside of that, I think a definition of CSR would be helpful. And essentially what CSR is the maximization of the positive impact upon the environment and indeed society, and the minimization of the negative impact upon the environment and society. And with regard to CSR, there's really sort of several different routes that a given entity could go. In the first instance, an entity may see CSR as a positive thing. In other words, that it's worth spending money and indeed allocating resources to being a good corporate citizen. And that would mean perhaps looking at their emissions, looking at waste disposal and that type of thing. So in a broad sense, CSR essentially means that a business's outlook is such that it believes that expending resources in being a good corporate citizen is good for the business in the long term. Now, the converse view of that is that really expending money in those areas is really a waste of money, in the sense that there's no return on it. And you'll probably be familiar with Friedman's quote in that particular area, that the business of business is business. And essentially what that means is that a business should concentrate on key aspects such as profit maximization and indeed wealth maximization for shareholders, and expending money either in the short, medium, or long term in areas such as emissions or indeed waste, etc., is literally a waste of money and a waste of time. So those are the two broad sort of views on CSR. And what Carol and Buchholz do in this particular slide, they come at it in a slightly different way. Really what they're saying is that there are a variety of sort of viewpoints that an individual entity could have, and really what they see CSR as is a sort of a continuum of behavior on the part of the particular entity. So really on the one hand of the continuum, on the left hand side here, we have really an entity really just being concerned perhaps with its economic responsibility. And that would be specific to obviously its shareholders and indeed its employees. So perhaps things like paying employees and indeed having some sort of return for shareholders are the only things that that particular country or company indeed is interested in. You'll see as we move along the continuum to the right hand side, you'll see that the next one along is just this idea of perhaps a company taking the view that only its legal responsibilities are important. So really we'd be including economic and then moving up towards legal, and really obeying the law as a minimum is what the company sees as important, and doing no more than that. So really compliance is the key word there. Okay. Moving on from that, we could have a company that covers the ground on the economic side, certainly does obey the law, but also feels that it needs to act fairly towards its stakeholders. And what do ethics mean? Well, essentially, ethics means the difference between right and wrong. And really what a company in this particular area would be doing is just ensuring that in all its dealings with all its shareholders, that it is acting in what it sees as an ethical way, or indeed, the right way. Okay. Moving up a level to the philanthropic, really what we're doing here is really sort of going the whole hog. We're saying that, not only is it an entity's responsibility to obviously adhere to its economic duties and paying staff, and also complying with the law, and also acting fairly and ethically, but also perhaps it should consider philanthropic deeds such as perhaps charitable donations. So really, Carolyn Buchholz are just providing us with a sort of a blueprint, perhaps going from left to right here in terms of how good a corporate citizen the entity wants to be. Okay, so just do bear in mind that that definition that I've mentioned, the idea of maximizing the positive impacts upon society and indeed the environment, and it's very much up to the company as to the view that it takes. This key phrase here, corporate citizen, is important, and do remember the theorists associated with the views on that, not least Carolyn Buchholz, but also Friedman. Okay, hope that's been helpful, and good luck with your studies.